Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1029B, and today's date is July 22nd, 2016, and the title of the episode is DHS is enforcing the 100-mile constitutional free zone, which is a complete violation of the Constitution. Let's get into the economic collapse, political, and geopolitical news. Now, we understand that the central bankers, they believe they're above the law. Actually, Christine Lagarde, as the chief of IMF, she doesn't even pay taxes. But we can see in France, it looks like they're going to put her on trial for a $400 million euro payout case. And we can see this was back in 2008. She's accused of negligence, which resulted in a misuse of public funds by a third party. So it looks like she'll be standing trial. We'll have to see how this goes. But at this point, with all the central bankers, they should all be arrested like Iceland did, throw them into jail, and continue on with this country without the central banking system. And those people who are in government, who are in line with the central bank, those people should also leave office. And we, the people, should take control of our country once again. That is the end game here for we the people. Actually, the Founding Fathers has done this before. Thomas Jefferson was out there telling us that once again we will have to do this. They have given us freedom, I think he said, for about 100 years. Actually, it lasted a little bit longer than that. And he said, once again, you will have to fight to be free. And it looks like we're reaching that point once again. And we can see that the government is continually taking away as many rights as they possibly can, even though it's a violation of the Constitution. Now, very interestingly, a Wall Street Journal reporter who covers the Middle East had a bit of a trouble when coming back into the United States. Maria Abi Habib, well, she was detained by federal agents at Los Angeles International Airport. They demanded her to hand over her cell phones, and she was shocked to learn that border agents have the authority to do that. The reporter has both U.S. and Lebanese citizenship and was traveling on American passport. She was flying into Los Angeles from Beirut, and she was taken out of the line at immigration. The agents asked her for her cell phones in order to collect some information. And she said, you know something? No, you cannot have my cell phones. She said she had the First Amendment right behind her as a journalist. And she was protected under this. Now, the agents presented a DHS document which explained the government had the right to confiscate phones within that 100-mile constitutional free zone around the country. And we can see right now this law is null and void. It's in violation of the Constitution. There is no such thing as a constitutional free zone. They made this up. Now, she went on and said, listen, you cannot have these phones. They're the property of the Wall Street Journal. I would have to call my boss, and they will have to get their lawyers down here to discuss with you why you need these two cell phones. Now, of course, DHS went off. They talked to their management, and they said, okay, you can go then. Now, everyone doesn't have this ability. I know this. But we all need to fight back and say, no, under the Constitution, which is the law of land, there's no law above this. You do not have the right to go ahead and take my personal belongings. You don't have the right to search me. If you are a citizen of the United States, you are protected. This is why the Founding Fathers did this. So we wouldn't have things like this. But we can see what the government is doing at this point. Again, slowly but surely, they want everyone to understand and believe that there are constitutional free zones. This is why they started in colleges. Oh, you can go over here and talk about anything you want. This is the free speech zone. When people want to protest, this is a free speech zone. What we as a people have to do is say, absolutely not. We will not go into those areas because the entire country is protected under the Constitution, and it is free speech everywhere. Now, Obama has come out and he has said that because of these shootings with police, they're going to authorize the police agencies once again to acquire military equipment. As we can see, this was part of the agenda. Because as we know, out in the open, they put this ban on police not to purchase military equipment. But covertly, they were still being given to the police. Now Obama wants to accelerate this process. And they're getting riot gear, armored vehicles once again, military-grade equipment. And the question once again, why do the police need this type of equipment? What are they expecting to happen here in the United States? Why is this happening in Europe? Because they understand. They realize what is coming. When this system starts to deteriorate very, very quickly, people are going to be shocked. People are not going to understand what's going on. People are going to riot. So what they need to do is they need to maintain control and order. Now, can they do this everywhere? No. Can it be used to protect certain government offices? Yes. And we can see what they're most likely going to do, and this is why there's FEMA camps. They will round people up and bring them to these camps, telling you that it's a good place for you to go. And we can see, as things start to fall apart, this is the agenda that they have planned for. And it's not just the United States. Many countries are doing this. This is why we see so many of these draconian laws. This is why they're enacted. This is why we see state of emergencies in France, in Turkey now. This is why we see false flag events like this newest one in Munich, Germany. What do you think is going to happen? Well, most likely they'll blame this on a terrorist. They'll say they need new laws. They need new troops on the ground. They need to control the people to keep them safe. This is what is happening right now, and this is going to spread. We've been saying this for quite a while, that this is going to accelerate. We're going to see more of this. Because this is what they're going to use to convince the people that the government needs to protect them. And we know this doesn't work. Because most of this is fake, phony, or false. It was planned. And even if it wasn't planned, and there is some type of an event, they'll spin the story to make you believe that it was terrorism. So they can push their agenda. Now, out in Japan, we understand that there's been a huge amount of protests where they're protesting against the military bases in Okinawa. But it looks like the construction of the helipads for the U.S. military forces, it has resumed. And it looks like they're continuing on with this base, which we kind of knew this was going to happen because the encirclement of China is taking place right now, and they need things built and ready for what is coming. Because as we know, the naval encirclement of China, well, it's been underway for over a decade now. And the United States has been pushing this for quite a while. And we can see just the last couple of years, it has accelerated in this area because we have Australia, South Korea, we have the Philippines, we have Vietnam, we have Japan, encircling China, Russia, and North Korea. And we understand that they created this missile shield. They're placing the THAAD missile system in South Korea, and there are many systems in many of the islands around China. And we can see right now that the United States used the Philippines to push a lawsuit in The Hague, allowing the United States to sail ships around the islands, even though the United States didn't sign the Freedom of Navigation. But we can see right now they're getting other countries into this. We see the French, they will be bringing ships into the area. And like I said, what they're doing is they're provoking China. And they're going to continually do this. And we're going to see accelerate. And we are seeing this right now. We see things building up in Ukraine. It is heating up dramatically. Right now, the southeastern people have left the OSCE, come in, take a look at the borders. They can visit the borders that are not controlled by Kiev, but they can't stay there. So they took a look, and we don't know what they reported. We'll have to wait and see. Russia has put out a warning. Churkin has written a letter to the UNSC explaining the latest developments in Donbass, about the increased shelling, about what is happening with Kiev, that they're not making concrete steps aimed at de-escalating the tensions, and they're showing clear evidence that the Ukrainian military is preparing a military operation there. And Russia is calling on the international partners to convince Kiev to prevent and stop this offensive that's about to happen. And we can see that Russia is at the UN saying, listen, we see what's happening here. And it's going to go fully live any day at this point. And we knew that this was going to happen. So we see the acceleration in the South China Sea. We see the acceleration in Ukraine, where everything is starting to heat up. And we see that there is a naval exercise in the Black Sea. The USS Ross, an Aegis-carrying guided missile destroyer, has entered the Black Sea and is taken part of the Sea Breeze 2016 exercise. And this is going to be a combined force of the U.S. and the Ukrainian navies. The same time they're preparing for a major offensive. And it seems like they always have these type of drills during the same period. So we're going to have to watch the situation in Ukraine very, very carefully, because we can see things are going to get out of control there. We see France is going to supply weapons to Iraq. They will be there next month. And we know that Charles de Gaulle, the aircraft carrier right now, it looks like it will actually get into the Mediterranean by September. Now, Turkey has said to Russia, listen, flights can continue on into Russia. It'll be completely safe. Don't worry about it. Electric has been supplied and restored to the Incirlik base, and they are off the generators right now. So things look like they're turning back to normal at that base. And we see that Erdogan, he's using the coup, as we know, to purge a lot of the military, judges, academia, teachers, you name it. This is what he's doing. But what's very interesting about all this is that this is a very big list. And for someone just to all of a sudden come out from a coup and have the list of people ready and standing by to purge this many people, the lists must have been pre-planned. Because as we know, even from the United States, when 9/11 happened, they already had the Patriot Act written, ready to go, because they already knew that this was a planned event. This, in Turkey, was completely planned, and we're still waiting for indicators. Now, there's a lot of people out there saying that Turkey now is siding with Russia, and that might be. Putin, as we know, needs to strategically get Turkey on his side. We know the United States and NATO want Turkey to do something. They want full power in Turkey so they can push their agenda in Syria. Now we're getting indicators on both sides now. And we're going to have to wait to see how this turns out. And I know many people have different theories. I have my theories where I still believe that this is being used for a major operation in Syria. because the United States government central bankers are stuck. Now, Putin might be pushing the agenda to bring Turkey over to his side, because we saw Erdogan call Putin. We saw Erdogan make a move to apologize for the down jet. But other than that, we haven't seen other actions from Erdogan. And this is something that we're waiting for. Now, Erdogan has said there's no obstacle to extending Turkey's state of emergency, that they can extend it at any time. And this should be a very big concern, because what we're seeing right now is that he has full control of the country. He has full power of the country, just like France, where they're under state of emergency. And if you notice, most likely, Germany will go under state of emergency. I think Munich has declared a state of emergency, and it'll probably be expanded to Germany, because if you notice, each one of these countries are declaring state of emergency. And it looks like this is spreading for something much larger to control the population, to give the leaders more power. Now, when we look at what the United States has done, they've been bombing the Islamic State for 2 years. And they have spent $11.5 million a day for the past 542 days. They've dropped 50,000 bombs. And the Islamic State during this period expanded their territory. To give a comparison, the U.S.-led forces in Afghanistan, they only dropped 16,000 bombs. So we can see right now that the United States uses the Islamic State, like we've been talking about for a very long time. And in October of 2015, the U.S. military claimed it had killed 20,000 Islamic State fighters in that year, but somehow the Islamic State force was the same size and growing, which again makes no sense. It was only until Russia came in and actually started bombing the Islamic State where they had the problem. Now, Lavrov is saying that Turkey, the Russian-Turkey relations, will depend on the cooperation on Syria. Now, this is the part where we have to watch. If Turkey turns towards Russia, they will no longer have the goal of removing Assad from power. This is what we need to watch. We need to watch the actions, because Lavrov has said, we have presented a lot of evidence that indicates that Turkey's territory is widely used to finance terrorists and redeploy gunmen to Syria. Now that we have resumed our relations, it will be difficult to ignore the fact that our Turkish partners will have to answer these questions now. And not only answer, but also take steps as they use their territory to support this war. Let's see what Turkey does at this point. Are they still under the power of the West? Or now are they under the power of Russia? And if they are under the power of Russia, the United States just lost the strategic location, which is Turkey. Now, Kerry is continually talking to Russia, Lavrov, trying to put together the ceasefire deal. And every time during the discussion, Kerry continually raises the issue of Assad's fate. And Russia continually tells Kerry, it's not up to us. It's up to the people of Syria. And this has always been the problem. Because the United States government central bankers, their goal is always the same: to remove Assad. Their tactics might change. And that's what we're seeing right now. The only reason they're changing is because Russia got involved. Now the U.S., and I see it all over the corporate media, is using the story that Russian planes bombed a secret military base in Syria used by elite American and British forces last month. Now Russia's saying, well, we're completely unaware of this secret base in Syria, and we have no knowledge of the incident. Now, this is very interesting. It looks like they're trying to make a move to blame Russia on hitting a secret base in Syria. But the question is, why is there a secret base in Syria? Who gave the United States the UK permission to have a secret base in Syria. The US, the UK, the coalition forces have invaded a sovereign country. They built a base. They built airfields. And now they're trying to use it to blame Russia. We're going to have to watch that situation very, very carefully. Now, we've seen another false flag in Germany. And it looks like they're reporting that 6 people have died. One of the shooters has committed suicide. A state of emergency has been declared in Munich. And we can see right now, most likely, they will expand the state of emergency. They'll create new laws. They'll say they need new troops on the ground to protect the people. We've been seeing this in Belgium. We've seen it in France. We're going to see it in Germany. And this is all part of the system completely falling apart, because they're going to continually do this to take away more and more rights of the people, to maintain control. And we're going to see this pop up in many other countries. As we move towards the end game, we're going to see more of these false flag types. Now, most likely they're going to blame this on the Islamic State. I think the Islamic State has already taken credit for it. And we know most of the time this is completely fake, phony, and false. The U.S. is warning its citizens in Saudi Arabia about an imminent threat. And they're warning people not to go out in certain areas. And it looks like the United States government central bankers are ready to create chaos in the entire region. And eventually what's going to happen is they will create chaos here in the United States in the way of physical attacks, cyber attacks. They'll blame the entire thing either on the Islamic State. They'll blame the cyber attacks maybe on North Korea, China, Russia. It's all the same players. And this is how they will try to get us into a major war. This is how they'll explain away the financial system crashing to a screeching halt. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.